Hello, everybody. Can you, quick question. Who wants to go home now? Good. At least there is something in you. Or you are so tired that you cannot raise your hand. So, hi. It's welcome to my talk. I should probably say I don't trust those people, so no. And yeah, so I was listening here to what Kuba was saying, and I figured out, oh, that's exactly opposite thing what I'm doing all the time. So, as you can see, I don't even have one card. It's actually one business card, and I'm doing two things. I'm doing all the things Scala. This is my brain now. So everything, I'm leading the Scala department at Virtus Lab, where we do open source, metals, all this stuff. Like Tomek, whenever you complain that metal doesn't work, comes to me and asks, can we make it bigger? So I'm the villain, sorry. And also have the second, so this like the red brain of mine. And there's also the green brain of mine, which is, I'm also leading the developer tooling department. I actually wanted to say, hey, Bazel is good, but Jarek previously, when he was sharing about Bazel, probably made not bad press. So Bazel was one of the many things that we do as well. So, yeah, and I don't have that much time. Actually, I got 3 minutes more from Kuba, so maybe I can speak a bit longer. And I wanted to talk about how Scala is made. And so let me start with who is making the Scala. And there's some logos there, but I think I need to start with that is the beautiful thing in the middle, and that's all of you. Because Scala is truly community-driven language. There is not a single entity, but one person that can control everything or can make everything. We don't have a sort of a central foundation that, given big retail/cloud company pretty much can take over. It's truly community-based, and this logo, the people, the organization from those things are the one, the organization that hire people and then allow them to work full-time to make Scala as it is, or drive Scala to be better. And so we think of us as sort of stewards. And that's in the order how they appear in the Scala Award. It starts with the PFL and Martin. That start all these things, and that's the reason why we are here. And it's not only him, but it's all the team of his students, postdocs, and more people. And I just want to say one thing. Martin said there, I want to say that again. It's not you think postdocs, what they can do, they probably do the research. No, those people actually fix your problems, fix performance regressions, and I'm really glad that they do, because they should do science and do things like that. So thank you for that. And then we have akka, or Lightband, or TypeSafe. There was different names from this entity. And they are actually created. I remember to Scala 9, and it was big time. Yeah, we finally have a commercial steward for Scala. And one of the mission why TypeSafe was created back then was actually make Scala and commercially available. And I think we should thank them because we succeed with that. Somebody's paying for all these beautiful things. Yeah, and they're still working on Scala 2 and helping us with Scala 3. And yeah, and so that's Akka. Then there is Scala Center, which is the non-profit part of whole thing. And I think their motto, I hope I will not make it wrong, but for education, for community, and for open source. And that's sort of the focus of the organization. But also, Scala Center maintains SBT, for example, and helps with many other things, including compiler. So there is a lot of help from Scala Center. And last but not least, and the younger one in the group is Virtus Lab, my company. I'm really glad that we are able to push and be there. So we try to help with Scala 3 and tooling. So, we sort of try to balance what Martin and his team is doing. It's we focus on LTS stability. We try to say why we need this and stuff like that. So that's the group, that's the pack. And again, without you in the middle, it would never work. And how Scala is made? Scala is made in versions, and let me talk you a bit about versions. You probably see this multiple times, so I'm sorry if I bore you, but I think it's important. We have Scala 2 that are sort of out there. 2.12 is just critical things that got released. 2.13 is just a bit tiny maintain, but not that much, not that many new features. But the maintain, what is being kept, and I'm really grateful that Akka is doing that, is that it's still the parity between Scala 3 and Scala 2.13 is kept. So we can still consume Scala 3 code from Scala 2.13. And for the future, we have Scala 3.6 something, and we will have Scala 3.7 soon. And that's what we call Scala Next. So the latest version of Scala, and those things are not maintained whenever there is a new version. So basically, it's going up as a library. So once like 3.6 was released, 3.5, nobody is working on 3.5 anymore, because that's not the reason. That's not the main. That's not sort of the stability. It's not this. And of course, if there will be like critical patch, if somebody can, somehow break all the applications, that we will release 3.5. Whatever. But if you want to have a stability, we have another maintained version of Scala 3 that is called Scala LTS. It's 3.3. I actually deleted, but the next one is coming. So we already passed like 3 years since 3.3 was released, and most likely 3.9 or something by the end of the year, if all goes well, will be the next LTS. Sorry, it was 2 years. And then we will have 3 versions that are maintained. Because it's not like the LTS just switch. There will be at least 1 year overlap between the current and the previous LTS. So why that is important? Like which one should you pick? There is sort of like a matrix of 4 things that we can fill in. I probably should put it on the slide. So one thing is like, where should I be on 3.3? There is like 2 reasons. First, most obvious, is if you have a library that have a lot of users. Because Scala, I will get back into that a little bit more, works in the way that Scala 3, that the version of Scala, you can use as high version as you like, but as low as the lowest version of your libraries. You cannot if you have a library on 3.3, you can use 3.2. So if you have a polar library, let's say you are a Katz effect maintainers, then you should be on 3.3. And the other, and if you are on sort of the application commercial side, let's say, then if you really want to have a stability, just stay on 3.3, because 3.3, the only thing that is got released is like fixes like critical problems, regressions that are not affecting API, and like quality of life improvements. Let's say if we make Scala compiler 2 times faster, it will go to 3.3. If we add a new method to, I don't know, some array or whatever, it will not go to 3.3. And there is the Scala Next, so when you should be on the Scala Next. Right now, if you want to live dangerous life, I mean, I'm joking, but basically every application, you can just go to Scala Next, because all your libraries should work. There is sometimes small things, so it's not as stable as you want it to be, 3.6 changed a bit the order how givens are applied, but it affects some users and some, but not as much as you might think. So if you want to have all the good stuff that the team behind Scala is making, the Next is for you. Or if you are developing a library, and this library does not have many users right now, and you are not fear about basically forcing somebody to bump up Scala or just experimenting playing, then please go on Scala Next. Because what we need people, we need all your beautiful minds trying the new features. Because then the next LTS will come, and if nobody is using that, how we can know they works? Because creating a programming language as it is right now, at this very moment, it's super hard. And if you have a programming language that changed, and you need to not only think about the language that you have right now, but the transition from the other one, it's actually a whole different problem. And I'm pretty sure there's tons of bugs in the Scala right now. But there's so many combinations how to put the programming language, especially as expressive as Scala needs to support, that we need people and libraries that actually explore new features. And I need to shout out to, I don't know, I can mention one and you might be surprised, because for example, Kyo, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing one, this new FX system. They're actually on one of the latest version of Scala, and actually compiler break many times on there. And that's super important because they're pushing the boundary and testing new features, and we can battle test them. So that is why it's so important for us, for the team, that people are using Scala Next. And how we verify that? Because this backwards compatibility, because this solves the problem that Scala 2 has. It was a pain. I don't know, when 2.13 was released, everybody was like, oh, what's going on, 5 years. And the big projects, big monorepos, I mean, I've just heard that, for example, Databricks quite recently migrated from 2.11 to 2.12. To 12. But you say, oh, what's going on? It's internal code. But how bad? We are not that bad, because Java 8, that was released, I think, around Scala 2.9, something like this, still has 20% of market. Even though all the companies that are using Java 8, they need to pay for the support. And migration from Java is easier. So keep in mind the perspective that when people see that Scala 3 has no attraction or adoption. there is at least 9% of, by Dolans alone, there's 9 or 10% of all Dolans of Scala. And by the active projects that are being used, not only on CIs, one every now and then, it's much more. The survey that we did shows even like 30 to 30%, but the true number is somewhere in between. And I spoke with many of you here, and I've heard a lot, like we are either on Scala 3, we are on the path to Scala 3, or we migrate soon, quite often. So yeah, it's going well. And some people just saying that, looking at the glass that is half empty rather than half full. And to guard this, the stability, we have the community build. So basically, there is 1,600 and more projects and libraries that we built. And many of those things are like, things that people do in 2020, I don't know, too. Published one version on Scala 3.0, and we still checking if that code compiles with the latest version of Scala. Some things we need to exclude, not because we don't like people or anything like that, but the code exploring bugs, so they will never compile again. But we really try to build everything that we can. And in terms of release schedule, then we have it as follows. So there is a new version of Scala. I don't know who remembers 2014. And tell that to people. Hey, we have a new version of Scala every 6 weeks. And there was like, yeah, and literally have a version of Scala every 6 to 12 weeks. And it's how many years? 3 years? Maybe like 3 or 4 since Scala 3 was released, and we are already on 3.7. If you look back, I started with Scala 2011, and I start just in between 2.9 and 2.8, 2.8 and 2.9, and now in the Scala ends to 2022, so like over 10 years, it only goes like 4 versions up in terms of paths. So it's like, I know that the versioning is different, but we have new things all the time. So LTS got fixed every 3 to 6 months. We basically, what needs to be done, if there is like critical stuff, they're going to fix bigger. So LTS, as I mentioned, 3 to 4 years, so that's why we're looking at the next one. And important things for you to try, we have nightlies for everything that we build, so next and LTSs. So it's like also important thing to try. There's milestones versions. So basically, whenever we want to release, let's say Scala 3.7.0, for a whole duration of 1 cycle, so 6 to 12 weeks, the milestone will be there for you to test. And unless there is a critical bug that we need to fix something in that, nobody will touch that code. So there is a long time for the window for all of you to basically find regression before we break your code. Hopefully we'll never break your code, but you know life. And there's also experimental flags and everything I need to run because it's taking me quite long. And all of the things that you can see here, those things are tested way before the new version is released. Because back in the day, whenever a new version of Scala was released, you need to wait and know whenever Scala test and Scala.js was up to speed. Now we have it from the day one. And also, because there is a backward compatibility, you can, the very first moment you see the announcement, not Maven Central, because we need a few more hours to actually catch up with everything, then you can basically try and update your project, and everything should work. I mean, everything that worked before. So yeah, so that's what's changed, and that's what we really like. And this is actually, I wanted to now go to the way, like who's doing what and how things change. Martin mentioned a lot about SIP, so I'm not going to do it again. Actually, Martin is still half of my talk. That's maybe good. And yeah, I go through that for quite painfully. I hope that you like that the SIP that goes there in the end. And I think it was good that it was so long because it gives people time to reflect. And I'm sort of more certain now that things that are not really well designed goes into the language. So that's SIP. Then there is a core team. I mean, I got QR codes for everything, so we can scan and go through it. I probably should say at the beginning. So core team, people that are doing ongoing day-to-day decisions. And there is one person that I want to shout out really well from here. That's Piotr, because he's doing like this really unthankful task of being a product manager of Scala and basically trying to tame and force and push everybody in the team. So Piotr, thank you, because without you, Scala would be a much different place. And then on top of the decision-making management, like so day-to-day management and planning, there is the team that actually developed the language, and it's actually the team of teams, and basically the boundary who is in the compiler team and who is not sometimes is blurry. But what what is important that this is planned, so we can actually manage that chaos and all this efforts going into there. And of course, I mentioned it, I need to mention it again, there is a community, because without your help, bug fixes, supports, changes, and everything that we do, and also there's like, compiler is one thing. A language without the ecosystem would be nothing, and the ecosystem is mainly maintained by the community. We wouldn't be here, so again, thank you to all out there. And now let's go to the second stage of this talk, so how you can help. And probably this is the most picture that some of you might relate, and this is not the good picture I want to show you here, because that's basically was like, it was really effective. It goes like, I think 1 million men to join the army in the First World War. I don't want to recruit anybody to the army, so I will get with different one. That's much better. That's Smokey the Bear. It's actually, it is authentic one, not originally created in the 50s in US. I gotta think that those are like, will be cool in a year or two, or maybe tomorrow, given how fast the AI is changing the graphic walls. But Smokey was a campaign from, I think, US, some kind of US government agency in the 50s that wanted to educate people not to start fires in the forest. It was quite popular back then to actually, it was like when the camping things going up, and people were like careless with their fire, and the fire was starting. And there's one mandatory thing in this talk for all of you here, and that's basically symbolized by this Smokey. Please do not start fires in our community. Be kind to each other and respect views, because we have way too many of this. So that's the only mandatory thing. And moving on, because that's not the end, but how you can help. That's a slide from Martin's presentation from today. From yesterday. And there is this important thing is safety and convenience. And this was actually what gets me into Scala, 2011. And not only that, that's another example of thing that I think we lost. I think our community becomes really Polish, because we start to complain a lot. And for everybody that are not Polish here in this room, when you greet somebody in Poland, you should not say, how are you? But something like, what an awful weather we have. A complaint is core part of sort of our culture, and if you are not complaining, everybody's looking like you. That's a strange person. And we as a community become something like this. We stop enjoying, we stop marveling about how nice and how beautiful the language that we have is. And right now with Scala 3, it's like even on different level. What actually struck me is like, if there are complaints with our community, like a proper complaints, like I'm giving up Scala because this, or too many research, or whatever, it's always like, but I regret that because Scala is so beautiful as a language. So let's throw away this kind of everything before but, and just say to the world, not to us, to the world, that Scala is beautiful. And I hope that I can inspire a certain person in this room that has in his to-do list something like Scala beauty. No pressure, Kuba. Yeah, so yeah, if I want to ask you this one thing, just be happy, be excited, and share that passion that we had, and we still have, in our language, to the outside world. And if you go, like, I don't have a link, but actually Dimitri said, yeah, Scala is really beautiful, even though he is like Occam guy, like, deeply. And the next thing is like, report things to us. Why I put MIWI, like a logo of a company that's using Scala? Because they reach out to us with a problem, and you think how, like, reaching out with a problem on the code base can help the whole community. The problem they've got is that when they move to Scala 3, their compilation will get like 8 to 10 times slower. And why is this important? Because they highlighted like a huge. It was not obvious, but they got like quite specific case where that affects, like, makes their compilation slow, but I'm pretty sure it saves like 30 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds for all of your compilations. And without them reaching out to us, we would never know. Because optimizing Scala is a death of 1,000 cuts in terms of the compiler. There's not a single like dispatch method that we need to improve in the compiler. It's like here and there, and you cannot, I mean, I tried to do it. I was like, oh, I know how to profile. I will do it for Scala 2 for like, a week. And I get nowhere. So without, actually people reaching out with small and big problems, we wouldn't be able to fix most of the things because we cannot guess where the problems are. And sometimes it's really hard. I understand why not all of you just complains, not reach out, because to get the problem for your code base to open source, it might be really hard. But just reach out. We figure it out. If needed to be, we'll sign NDAs and go to your code base and pretty much like try to debug on the spot. Because for us, making Scala as good as possible is what we are here for. And 10 minutes, okay. Try to contribute. Have you, like, you might say, wait, I don't have time in the evenings. I don't want to spare, like, I got some other projects. I'm contributing already. But have you tried to, we all have day jobs. Hopefully all of you work with Scala on a daily basis. Have you tried to reach the problem to your managers? Like, hey, this thing is broken and we're using it for free, maybe we can fix it. And you would be surprised because they might say, maybe not today, maybe not this sprint, but in the end you might get it through and you will have fun task. And even more, I got this like few cases where people actually get either promoted or get the good things because they do something in the open source, because this was actually a problem for the team. So I'm not saying you might be able to, you will succeed every time with this, but at least try. And I'm not forcing you to spend time in the night, because that's hard, that's not. Try to work with your team, with your day job, because that's the resource that we got. And last thing, we have communities. And you might say local communities. And you might say, okay, but why? I think there is a big correlation between pandemic and sort of like the decline of maybe not positively talking about Scala and the enthusiasm that we got in the community. And why is that? Because we are stopped meeting. We stopped getting inspired. We got a lot of endorphins. And why, I mean, you might say, why there are so many Scala people in Poland? Because there's like way many Scala people. That's the reason. That's exactly the reason. This and conferences. I mean, you might, there's cultural thing. No, like Czechs or Slovaks are really similar in terms of culture, and there is no Scala communities in there. It's just because actually there was the seed that was put into this Polish soil, and we have so many things. And if you look where Scala is popular, like London and everything, there are communities. So yeah, if you can, try again the communities. It's super fun. Pinky promise. And speaking about local communities, there is this that's like small event, like small local community event in Switzerland. Maybe you want to come. And I'm really excited that we have Scala Days because that's another source of inspiration. So yeah, I hope I can see at least some, at the best all of you there. And lastly, the last way, I mean, if you want, if you can, there are ways to actually contribute either through convincing your company to help, like to join the membership. There is also option for individual donations. Nothing is mandatory, so I just mention it just to close it up. And basically it's a time to say thank you. I haven't finished. I just want to say thank you for being part of our community. Yeah, so applause was really earned. And now, I mean, maybe we should go home. No, I need to say that. So that would be a bit personal now, because for quite some time, I actually start to get burned down with Scala. Not the language, not the community, but there was like two things. There was a lot of negativity in that comes from, the Twitter, or sorry, X now, or general, like everybody was saying Scala is dead. At the same time, everybody was saying, oh, LLMs will take over our lives, our jobs. We will not program anymore. Like every CEO of every big company in Silicon Valley was saying that, ooh, by the next quarter or tomorrow, we will replace all of our engineers with 2 machines with AI. And actually, and then you look at sort of, there was layoffs and everything. And basically I start to think, why do we even care for a programming language? We should care that we can program, or maybe, I don't know, start to learn how to lay bricks or whatever. And, just to give you an example of a text that was both like, influential to me, but also like actually, that doesn't help with that, is this. I don't know if you see that Steve Yegi post, the death of the junior developer. And I cared a lot for like teaching people and basically getting interns and juniors and putting them through the paces. But there are actually a few things happen that actually give me hope. So this is what I want to say now. Do you know what is the thing that connects all of these languages that I'm showing you here? Yes, they are 5 years younger than Scala, at least. And there is something that is called like Lindy effect. I don't know if you know about this. It's basically a law, it's a law. It's something that people observe that states that if something is not perishable, programming language is not perishable, the older something is, the bigger a chance is that it will survive. So I hope that we will survive this, And not only that, we got the mass, we got the community. And we need to say it aloud. Scala is the only functional programming language that has commercial success, that is successful and relevant right now. There is tons of us. It's not like 20 of hackers somewhere in the basements. There is tons of jobs. I mean, Scala might be too big to fail, but that's not all. Because do you remember when I say, why we should even care about programming languages? That's, I think, where actually the second part of the hope gets me going. If all what these AI people are telling us is true, that we will not write code anymore in the future, AI will do it for us, then look what we are doing. We are telling a machine something like, solve me this problem, or write me this class, or whatever, and the machine what it's doing is giving us a code that we never touch with our hands. And if we need to change that code, let's say we're vibing all the time, we're telling to the machine, change it. And this reminds me of what compilers do. We don't tell a compiler, do this bytecode or do this assembly language. We're just giving them a higher level language. Do you see the pattern? Because imagine that we have compilers, but we do not put a source code to our repositories. We are putting bytecode. So let's say if that is true, then I get bad news for all of those languages, and especially Go. You are a new assembly language. So is there a hope for Scala? And I hope that you can see, you might see it on our stand, because that's the last piece that's why I'm here and I'm sort of a bit energized. This is the usual experience with Scala. This is actually a cursor and like an agent, so almost vibing, let's say, and there is a library. That's the biggest problem right now that we have with Scala. This thing, it's never in the base that it was learned on. So there was pretty much no example. That's sort of a pet project from Kasia. We all have a pet projects in our day jobs, don't we? Something like this. But yeah, but it's not only that. We are building a new framework, and the cutoff, it was not catched by a cutoff. There's not enough code. So yeah, that's pretty much we are doomed, because this agent is going circles, like burning money, But I need to run here. But there is something that is called MCP. So basically a way is starting the same. The only difference is that we say use MCP. And now, if you look here, it's actually going to do something like, let me inspect the tire object to see what methods are in there. Can you see a change? Now I'll write the code. And it's writing the code. It takes a bit of time. Suspense is killing us. And we have a code, and it doesn't compile. But look what's going on. I'm looking at the code, and the error is there is wrong symbol operator, which is something that at this very moment the LMs are not able to handle. So it's not new. You might see that on our stand. And why I'm showing you that? This is actually super fresh. It's actually not polished at all, but we are able to pull it off. So there is a way that we can tell LLMs to explore the language, the types, the guidelines that we have, the same way as we do. So if you think about that, and the thing about these three things that I mentioned, so let me start from the bottom. Scala is convenient. If you're working with higher type languages, you are not able to pull off a code that is clean and easy. You can write a code that looks like Python and feels like Python, and is fully typed with Scala without much effort. So, and with tools like this, the types and the tooling can actually guide and profile, and we can build libraries that can be explored by models that people are saying that will take over our jobs. So there is a hope for that. So the convenient part is there. If you go with Go, if you go with other languages, there's so many accidental complexity. Not with the types, not with the things they put, but how the things are called and everything. And then, there's these predictions in 2025, none of us will program. And in 2026, all of us will program because we need to fix all the problems that LLM will generate. With Scala, we might be able to pull it off. And then, there is the beautiful part. Why it's important? It's actually something I learned talking about this to people is like, why you're not using like, Copilot with Scala? This is sort of my green brain now, like developer tooling, AI, it's something I need to do all the time, or I should do, let's say. And it's like, no, the code that it generates, and the ifs are not really good. I mean, sometimes there's like a case that they will not go. There's no point, I need to fix it all myself. And I'm like, wait, have you just described how 80% of the code base outside of Scala looks? Yes. Don't you see that? We have this kind of, as a community, we have this built-in training set for doing code reviews. And if LLMs write all the codes, the thing that we will do is to do code reviews. So we are prepared as a community to do the code reviews on the big scale, and we have this kind of vibe for quality. I mean, another data point for that, when we recruit Scala people, we just have one interview. And the success rate is the same as for Java. And in order to have the same success rate for Java people, we need to do 3 rounds of interviews. Coincidence? Maybe. You need to judge it. So, and all this gets me to this, what gives me hope that Scala is not dead, that we will not be the Golang if LLMs will take our job. Because with this, let's say, beautifulness and this mass and experience and skills of people, there's tons of people that wants to get back to Scala, if it's sort of, commercially viable, whatever. With the safety that we just briefly touching to explore, like Łukasz and Michał was showing you what we are working with Yaga, so basically trying to compile and type check the whole application from the very top to the very beginning, which is now with LLMs might be hard to do, and there's a lot of problems. So we have the ability to be safe and explore that safety, and we can teach LLMs to actually explore that Scala. And if you combine that with the fact that I just, this idea that I think all of the main programming languages that I showed you most likely will become an assembly language, that we need something new. And the thing that gives me hope, that's why I actually go through this dark time, is I cannot prove it to you, so it's just a belief. But I believe that Scala, right now, is the first of the next generation of programming languages. The one that is a higher level than anything else that we got out there. Thank you.